This week is a big jump in timeline from our readings each Sunday the last few weeks. We left Jesus and the disciples in the midst of a few teaching moments around the temple, and now Jesus has been arrested, and we are approaching the end of his life. Just as we approach the end of our liturgical calendar to begin again in Advent next week. Here, a small town teacher from the outskirts of that nothing town of Nazareth stands in front of the seat of imperial power in a Roman-occupied city. Jesus would have been brought through a series of fortified gates going deeper and deeper into the kingdom of Caesar. And standing there, surrounded by guards and regalia and all the signs that we are in charge, Pilate comes with his questions. Pilate is effectively the Roman-appointed governor of this remote outpost of Judea, and it's his job to keep the Jewish people in line under Roman control, and ultimately to keep their money flowing back to palaces and benefits that they will never see. To do that, and to protect his precarious power, Pilate needs to know who this man is. He starts with the name, the labels, the identity that have been laid upon Jesus, King of the Jews. So we have this moniker, this label for Jesus, a king, and for his subjects, the Jews. Systems of power need things to be unrealistically simple. Black and white, reduced to one-dimensional objects that can be labeled, analyzed, and conquered. And Jesus quickly messes up that system by responding with a different kind of answer, like a good rabbi, a question. Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me? Wait a second, who's asking the questions here? Pilate has already lost control of the conversation by sentence 2. He tries again with a direct yes or no question. Are you a king? And Jesus still does not stay in bounds. My kingdom is not of this world. It raises the question of who is in authority here. And to even raise that question in a context of empire is dangerous. My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Judeans. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here. So Jesus points us toward two things. That we are using the language of kingdom. We are talking about kingdoms. And it isn't this. Jesus is God on earth, so to say my kingdom is to say God's kingdom is not from this world. Jesus reveals God is bigger than just one place or even one people. Pulls the camera back to reveal an even wider scope, one that goes beyond the Roman Empire, but still includes it. Interestingly, that's where I get on my church history nerd hat. I wonder, does anyone here know when the church started celebrating Christ the King Sunday? Like how long have we been doing that? At I guess, 100 years? More, what do you think?
World War I.
World War I? Okay, some of y'all read ahead. In 1925, The Pope created Christ the King, or Reign of Christ, as we may now call it, Sunday, a festival to remind Christians that their allegiance was to their spiritual ruler in heaven as opposed to any earthly supremacy, Mussolini. To 21st century ears, that language, Christ the King, can sound like heavy-handed, hierarchical holdovers from our patriarchal dominated past. And maybe it is. But it also makes perfect sense when we realize that it is a response to a growing fascist movement in Europe. So to say that Jesus is king is to say that Caesar is not, right? And Mussolini is not. And Donald Trump is not. And Joe Biden is not. And I am not. And that is a sure way to start a fight. And it's how it always goes down. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Return of the Jedi, Simba returning to Pride Rock. If you challenge those who benefit from the dominance of others, there's going to be an epic conflict. And maybe a good movie. But here again, Jesus points to how God's reign is different. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Judeans. But as it is, my kingdom is not from this world. And I'll be honest, there are times I really feel like fighting. With the same cruel tools that God has here. But God does not advocate or require bloodshed or violence. Those have always been our own projections and propensities. God takes it into God's self to be crucified together with Christ on the cross. Christ powerfully proclaims that God doesn't belong to Rome, even when the newsreels point to the contrary. God is bigger than playing some shell game for some semblance of security. God is bigger than presidents and governors, bigger than addiction, shame, fear, Black Friday sales, and certainly bigger than me. In the past, I have said in moments like these that God is in control. Over and above these things. But I realize that control is the same game that the empire plays. So something about that phrasing just doesn't lay quite right, I think, for me. And in these past weeks, I know that many people have been trying to support one another and hope and trying to calm fears. And one of the phrases is this reminder that God is still in control. God is still in charge. And I have also seen that supposed promise can make people bristle. Is God backing or blessing or ignoring the painful things that they still experience, especially at the hands of those who are in charge? It strikes me as very corporate American language. And I grew up with John's in charge of our days, right? I dated myself, that's fine. But it casts Jesus within his power, within our cultural gaze. And I think Jesus points to a gospel so grand it can't possibly be shoehorned or cornered into such a narrow way of being. God is greater and more enduring and truer than any mechanism we devise. Truer in the sense that the Godhead doesn't rely on constructs, armies, pithings, smoke, and mirrors in order to be. But also truer in the sense of fidelity, faithfulness, and everlasting commitment to humanity and our collective wholeness. Jesus' kingdom is not about his ultimate rule over and above others. Jesus' kingdom is about relationship. My kingdom is not from this world because it is from God who is three in one, whose very nature is relationship. The concept of kingdom is then radically recalculated in the Gospel of John. From kingdoms that strain and sever relationships to a kingdom that puts relationship at its core. And that's a whole different perspective of kingdom. When kingdom comes from the truth of relationship and not rule, from the truth of incarnation and not location, from the truth of love and not law, then Jesus as truth will reign true. Jesus' kingdom is a state of being, a way of life, a particular kind of world. Jesus says, for this I was born, for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. It is a truth that pulls back the camera from the concocted half-truths of the powers of this world, and widens our view so that we might see a much grander truth. So right after this little exchange, Pilate asks, what is truth? And I, Pilate on this one, I would love to know. I live in a world with so many competing voices that it can make it really hard to figure out what to believe, even within my own head. And again, the answer is bigger than the shape I thought it would take. Jesus says, I am the way, and the truth, and the life. The truth is less of a static fact and but more of a living, breathing person, a relational person. Jesus says, everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice. Truth is a voice. It is a voice that says, follow me. A voice that says, we're off to give hope to the hopeless, to comfort the lonely and the left, to dance and laugh and be too loud, to heal and not perfect, to give shelter to those who need it, to allow silenced voices to be heard and to love one another, the whole world over, as children of God. Want to come? God is a ruler that elevates their subjects, empowers them. This is not a king that's going to take care of everything for us, but invites us to join in the creation of such a reality. Not only for some heaven-like years away, some brighter day beyond our reality, but how this truth might be tasted here and now. It is our calling to become something new, as part of the newness that is as old as the beginning. It is our calling to be a part of our own prayer, thy kingdom come. We are the kingdom. It is not a territory, but a people. We are a people that echo God's truth. You are loved, love one another. We are empowered to love fiercely, even in the face of fear. This is our mission as a church, our invitation as a community, as followers of the voice of truth. Church is not a provider of religious services, a 1 hour, 1 day a week event, as lovely as it is, but a community of belonging, welcome, love, sacrificial love. The truth of this world says that in the face of giants, you might as well give up or become a meaner giant. Working for God's kingdom can feel like a rather futile determination. Working for God's kingdom can ask much of us. It is more than just an uphill battle. At times it feels nearly impossible, even ridiculous, to think that our efforts and energies can shape a world into the world God sees it can be. But the voice of truth can still be heard. And it has been said that changing the world begins with a small group of people who simply refuse to accept the unacceptable. And that can look a lot of different ways. And it doesn't mean that you have to fight your extremist uncle at Thanksgiving in order to be good. It is hard to believe that we can stand up against the unacceptable, especially when we just want to eat pecan pie in peace. But we cling to this, to truth and to possibilities, to each other. We have to, with God's grace and encouragement. Amen.